Good morning and welcome to Pointing at the Moon, our conversations here in the Peace Pagoda at the Providence Zen Center. This morning we're joined by Zen Master Seung Bobby Rhodes, the head Zen Master for the Kwan School of Zen. Bobby was one of the earliest students of Zen Master Seung Sahn, and would it be incorrect to say you're Zen Master Seung Sahn's successor?
I was never told that. So I was only the next in line. Yeah.
Well, either way, thank you for joining us today. So, Bobby, I wanted to start out this morning with the fact that you are one of Zen Master Seung Sahn's earliest students. You've been around since the very beginning, more or less. Tell us a little bit, what were things like in those early days, back before there even was a formal Kwan School of Zen? Give us some insight into the practice energy and what that looked like for you.
Well, the reason I kept coming to his Zen Master Seung Sahn's Dharma talks was because I wasn't living there at first, but he had a talk every Sunday, and I was very impressed with his energy. He spoke very little English, but it was being translated through a professor at Brown, and I was very impressed with how I didn't know what he meant when he said, like, only go straight, don't know. I was like, what does that mean? But the way he said it, and his energy and his eyes, and just, you could tell he was totally convinced that this is what needed to be done. Only go straight, don't know. So I had that was my first kangan, like, what does that mean? Only go straight, don't know. So then there was a room available for me at the Zen Center, and so I moved in. We had, like, I think two Brown students, and I was a nurse, so I started living there. So we didn't have a formal practice in the beginning. We just kind of sat once in a while, and Sansanim was very busy. He had a job working on the outside, and so I was working, everybody was working and going to school. So then he said, okay, we're going to start sitting. And so we started like 6:30. He started teaching us how to do the chants. So it started out very trickly, slowly. And then he started to tighten the screws. And we're going to do this, now we're going to do this. And then we started sitting for 2 hours every Saturday night after the chanting. And so we just kept building on it. We didn't have formal meals in the beginning. We actually didn't have formal meals for about 4 years. Oh, wow. And I kicked up a fuss. I was like, we have enough formality around here. Can't we just sit and talk to each other? No, we have to. So, the 4 meals were complicated, so we learned how to do that. And, for me, there was some resistance to so many things that we had to learn. But the long robes, we had to become a Dharma teacher. I said, I came here to be a student. I don't want to be a teacher. I would like not fight with him, but just say, what do we need to be a teacher for? For all people, I can't be here all the time. You have to help. So just teach what you understand. So the first time he had me give a Dharma talk, I was nervous for several years. I'd get actually diarrhea before I had to give a talk. I just would be so nervous. But the first time I gave a talk, I was paraphrasing something from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, something I'd read, and he's going, very good. He's in the audience, oh, good. And so he's like building me up. Like, it was a terrible talk, but he was, very good. So I'm like getting a little self-confidence, So it was all about, us learning so we could help others, and that's what he was doing too.
It's so funny you bring that up. About a month ago, I answered questions for the first time as a senior Dharma teacher in front of the Sunday group here at the Providence Zen Center, about 30 to 40 people, and like you, I was extremely anxious for my first time. Just, first of all, answering questions, but also answering questions with a camera on me. And then I could see Zen Master Daekwang sitting in the back of the room, and whenever I start talking, he'd just be like, So in a lot of ways, I really understand what you mean by that confidence, kind of bringing it up. Yeah. You've been doing this for some time. What does being a teacher mean to you, and how has it evolved over the years?
It just means me learning how to practice and passing it on. Mm-hmm. That's all it means. If I get sitting there, I'm a teacher, then there's a problem. Mm-hmm. But for what and for whom? Mm-hmm. So why do I practice? What's the point? And I see a huge need for me to practice, for everyone to sit down, settle down, and find out who they are. So as I do that, of course, I'd love to have people want to do that as well, because it's helped me, and it will help the world for people to be kinder and clearer. So it's not about me being a teacher, it's about learning and then passing it on, you know.
So could you talk a little bit more then about how Zen practice may make you kinder or clearer, since that seems to be you're implying that's a side effect or a possible result of it. So could you expand on that a little?
Well, if you let go of small self, you know, we have this huge storehouse consciousness. We have, that's sometimes people call it, it's like a computer with all these programs that we don't need anymore. And it's past, present, future thinking, but mostly past and future thinking. We're very often not in the now. So the practice is to bring us back to the now, to just be still and pay attention. And the result of that is very, very important, because when you're just able to just be with, this compassion, wisdom appears out of the universe. The universe is full of love and compassion and wisdom. We're just into this like blinders, this I, my, me, my program, you know, and some people have a happy, successful program, some people have a horrible program, and but it's still a program. So it's not about being happy or successful, it's about how is it just now? And when you tune in, then that compassion and wisdom will naturally arise. Because you're tapped into the universe then, you're tapped into this.
Well, I was interested in maybe picking your brain about this idea. So as someone who's been practicing for so long, there's been this interesting kind of evolution, at least I've seen in my, decade and a half of practicing, and I'm sure you've seen more, in which meditation has kind of moved from being something to help us understand our true selves in a broader sense of Buddhist practice, or whatever you want to call it, to here is how you can use meditation to get you more money and have better sex and all sorts of things. It's entered into this broad use that maybe it wasn't originally intended for. Is that something that you've kind of seen? How do you feel about meditation now being used for all sorts of crazy things and not just that internal work?
Well, it's better than nothing.
Okay.
But the whole thing about I only know about Buddhism,
sure.
But is how may I help you, the vow. And also, what am I? So the question, and you won't see that in most mindfulness instructions. Yeah. It's what am I, and how may I help is really very strongly stressed in most of Zen practices. Yeah. So when you ask what am I, that brings you to don't know, and that brings you to the stillness. So it's very different from just being with the breath and being in the now and finding your charge. That's fine, but if you don't have the direction and the vow, it can remain self-centered. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some people pop into feeling more altruistic as well with mindfulness practice. It's certainly, as I said, it's much better than not doing anything. Yeah.
People who sit meditation sometimes become self-centered. Perish the thought. So going back to when you were mentioning about your kind of early days and the kind of the resistance you felt with a lot of the forms that Zen Master Seung Sahn introduced, how did you push through that and manage to stay with it after all that? I see a lot of people kind of come to Zen practice, and even more who don't come back. And something about it either doesn't connect with them, or maybe we don't communicate something well enough, or there's this allergy to anything that looks like organized religion, kind of at the end of the day. So what would you say to that, and how did you work through it?
Well, I found good results from it. When we started to have a regular schedule, and he started having us wear these little bowing robes, then we didn't have to worry about what someone was wearing or what I was wearing. It was just covered, so that whether you're wealthy or poor or a slob or a neat freak, it doesn't matter. Once you put the robe on, you're just come in to sit with me. And so you take away a lot of judgment, a lot of ideas just by having someone just look just like you, plain. Just for, not all the time, but it's very helpful. And so all of the forms, sitting, bowing, it's just, when you do it together, it's so you have the robe on together, you bow together, you chant together, you sit together. There's a profound sense of trust that starts to build up. And then, because you're trusting everybody's acting in unison, then you begin to start look at your own little confusions, your own insecurities, because everything's secure on the outside. It's you know, it's temporary because we're in the Dharma room, but it's just so secure that everybody's going to cooperate and work together. And we begin to really like that. It's like, oh, this is nice, the chanting's nice together, and the bowing's nice together. And then we have time to kind of see, well, why am I still feeling kind of insecure? What's going on? And then, as we use kangans, we use great question in our practice. So it might be, if we just check out, what is this? Don't know. There's something coming up with work that we're really concerned about, like, can I do it, or should I do it? And so you can breathe that in and don't know. And you begin to digest your karma in a sense of wondering, being able to see, oh, I can do that. I've decided to do that. I'm going to walk into the room. I'm going to do it. And then when you actually do walk into the room to do it, you've already digested a lot of your own anxiety, and you're confident. And that happened in the Dharma room maybe 3 days ago. Because, again, you have the support of the Sangha. That really, really helps. Yeah.
What has you kind of anxious or concerned these days that you're walking into the Dharma room with?
You want a list?
Maybe the
one
big
begins
one.
with a T. Just the anger, just the strife, the incredible strife and greediness and confusion, and not the opposite of what I was talking about with why we put our robes on and chant together, to learn to trust each other. And that's not going on everywhere. And then the results are just heartbreaking. So we talk about correct relationship function situation, being in tune with how is it. So you just, oh, I need to do this. Oh, this is my job. And if everybody was doing that, again, the trust would evolve, then the love would evolve.
Yeah. So it's interesting you bring up this term heartbreaking, because I always remember Dennis Dermeyer, Judo Pope Sanim, would often say in his chats, when you really look closely, this world will break your heart. And, you know, we have a saying in our chants, Deja Debi, great love, great sadness. You know, they go together. What does that mean for you? Or how would you explain great love, great sadness to someone?
If it doesn't need to be explained, if you take a deep inhalation, don't know, you'll feel it. You'll perceive. And it's a lot of love and a lot of sadness in this world. But there's so much love, so we can channel. And it sounds corny, but really, we can feel that love, and we can just drop by drop by drop, be kind. That's all we can do.
Yeah. So, speaking of kindness and the T word, Donald Trump, you know, we live in an incredibly politicized society these days, and it is causing a lot of mistrust, a lot of heartbreak, and a lot of discord. But the school isn't any stranger to strong political upheaval. It was around for the fall of the Soviet Union, the Vietnam War, and whatnot. How did the school, or how did Zen Master Seung Sahn handle these huge political events? Did he ever speak about them at all, or address them, or how did he ever want to approach the huge political changes occurring in the world, let alone in South Korea, his home, with the rapid capitalization of it and increased dependence on money and greed kind of thing? Did he ever talk about that?
No, he showed us. I mean, he wanted reunification of North and South Korea his whole life, and he worked for that. He had conferences. He did all kinds of things. You know, he took us to the zone, demilitarized zone, and,
Oh, wow.
and we went underneath the tunnels. We went into North Korea, actually. There's a line under, even in the tunnels there's a line. And there was nobody around, so we walked into North Korea. He got out his moktak and started chanting the Heart Sutra, and then somebody came in from North Korea, heard the moktak, and escorted him back towards the south. It wasn't, told him to stop. But he demonstrated, you just try, you try, you try, unconditionally. He died without the reunification. He wanted it all his life, So that's the sadness, but the love was by him demonstrating and opening and trying.
And he was originally from what is now known as North Korea, wasn't he?
Yes, he was cut off from all of his family. Just his sister came down with him.
God.
He never saw his mother and father again. He was young. He was like 19.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he never talked about it. Because it's such a big bundle of sadness everywhere that you just try again to go straight, don't know, as I started this talk with, and do your best. Yeah.
It feels like that's all we can do sometimes when everything else is so overwhelming.
So one time we were talking about world events. It was during the Cold War was ending, and. There was a big nuclear threat coming from Russia, and it was we didn't have the internet and all of that back then, and we were just hearing like things are getting hot. And so people were worried, and so during the Dharma talk, someone asked Zen Master Seung Sahn, what are we supposed to do with this fear around the atomic bomb? And he said, oh, wow. If let's say that the bomb hits Providence, which is 15, 20 miles away from Cumberland, where we live, he said, you'll just have enough time to run out into the field and say, hello. So say hello to that explosion, because you made that bomb. He went, you made that bomb. Your desire, your anger, your ignorance, take it. This is it, like, hello. So if you face your desire, you face your anger, you face your ignorance, pay attention, then again, this is how you can begin to, don't know, and digest.
Yeah.
And the wisdom and the love will float up.
Yeah.
But I loved when he said that. I went, wow. Can we just take responsibility for that bomb, each one of us? It's not those people over there.
Yeah.
So
I think that's one of the things I've loved the most about this practice and this teaching in my 15 years or so of being here, is that everything is turned around for us to look at our own mind. How is this arising from us, and how are we contributing to it at the end of the day? There is no passing the buck. It is, look, how are you accountable for this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And that can drive people crazy, and it can also open up some amazing kind of gates as well.
Well, when you say drive people crazy, what people end up doing is they start drinking too much, eating too much, watching too much television, this and thatting, picking a team, opposing the other team, and all this craziness comes. But that's not facing the bomb. Like, can we just ask, what is this? It's so hard to do because, for me, one of the things that really bothers me is the climate change. And more than that is that what is being done about it? Where somebody up there who's in charge needs to start, showing a little leadership here. And there's just probably 2/3 of, let's just the United States, people are very concerned and want to help and want to do something, but they need to be directed somehow. So it always starts at the top, and we have to know that, and we have to listen and demand and ask, what can we do? How can we help? So, shake the cage. And practice gives you energy to shake the cage.
Yeah.
I
love that. Shake the cage. Amen. So maybe in the last 5 or 6 minutes we've got left together, we've spoken a little bit about Zen Master Seung Sahn in the early years and practice and Dharma. There's always a lot of talk about Zen Master Seung Sahn, but I'm more interested in you right now. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for this school, when the time comes for you to pass it on to whoever comes next?
I guess just what I just said to you in the last 20. It's not new news, but passing it on is the legacy. Just encouraging people to practice. You know.
Is there anything that worries you about these generations of teachers, such as myself, who had never met Zen Master Seung Sahn, who had never encountered his teaching?
It's everywhere. It's like, you know, it's everywhere. It really, the person gets in the way a little bit. He had a personality. He had his, you know, he was great. I have total respect, but he wasn't perfect. So, you know, everybody will start, if he walked in now, oh, is that all? You know, he's only 5'5", and he's fat. And, you know, he wasn't fat, but chubby. It's not about him, you know. He didn't drag around his Zen Master Mangang and Kobong. He didn't talk about his teachers. He presented the practice. There is no self. He didn't present himself. He just, as I said, that's why I kept coming back when I first met him in Providence. I was like, wow, this guy has a lot of enthusiasm, and I got to find out what only go straight, don't know means, because he really likes it. And so, you know, that's the thing, is you didn't miss anything. And because it's the written, that I think he was so generous with being able to compile these books. I mean, just so wonderful that he could do that. And it's there. Everything he said is in those books. Yeah.
In the next couple of decades, is there anything that you would like to see kind of change or evolve within the school as it continues to move forward and offer the Dharma to anyone who comes through these doors?
Oh, just naturally evolve, just like everything else. We don't know. We can't think, does it need to change? But, you know, some things, I was thinking, I've been sitting in Kilche all week, and sometimes I think, oh, this would be better if we did it a little bit, just a little tweaking to make it easier on people, you know, in a sense of the timing of things. And so I was going, maybe we could change this. It's been the same way, and Kilche's schedule's been the same for, you know, 40 years, but maybe we could, you know, and that's the kind of thing where, because people come in for just 1 week, you know, a lot of people, and it's like hard on them, you know, the schedule's difficult. So I just want to change a little bit. We end at 9:30 instead of 9:40. Give a little, so you have that half hour before 10 o'clock, to kind of really unwind. And so there's just ways that maybe each of us can make suggestions, and this might, because you want to look at the whole, how can we help? I always say, like, how could someone come and it's not too much? So they might come back. But you also don't want to water it down too much, because the power is in, it's not easy. You know, the power is in strengthening yourself and sitting down even when your legs hurt and just doing your best. And, you know, our school lets you stand up. A lot of Zen schools, you can't stand up. You have to. I mean, this is number 10 on the pain scale sometimes with how your legs feel. And to me, Sansanim was wonderful, because he made that up probably. Oh, you can do this and you can stand behind your cushion. That's probably something he brought to us fresh, not in Korea. I'm not sure what they do in Korea, but that was a good thing.
We live in a very different culture than, you know, Asia, where Buddhism is ingrained into every fabric of their society. What do you think draws individualistic Westerners to this kind of practice, and what keeps them around for it?
Suffering.
Heard that one before.
Yeah. So someone might, you know, have everything. They have like the perfect Unitarian church, and they have the perfect wife and the perfect good salary and healthy children, but somehow it's not quite doing it with the, you know, the talk isn't quite. What am I? You have to. Each person has to. You could call it a existential crisis, but really, when I was born, where did I come from? When I die, where do I go? What am I? That's not something you can give to somebody. They have to hit it's not really hitting a wall, but it's a big don't know, like, what is going on? How could I? So when I read about Buddhism and read about the meditation, and like one of the first koans I read was someone asks the Zen master, "Oh, master, what is Buddha?" Because everybody thinks Buddha is something, you know? And he goes, "Oh, your teeth are yellow." And he was just what he saw. And I got it right. I was only 22 or something. I went, wow, that was what was right in front of him. Just it's how ordinary, yellow teeth. But he just went, "Oh, your teeth are yellow." I was like, it was brilliant. And so someone has to kind of get that we want to see clearly just now and not have some idea of some outside force that's going to help us. We can pray to that. That so many people need to pray, need to feel that there's something, but it's got to be that you find that thing of, oh, that's not it. Yeah, find your gut, find your gut. And then as I said earlier, when you find your gut and you sit, then you begin to feel this altruistic sense of, oh, how may I help? It's automatic. And that feels, there's nothing to me that feels better than altruism. It's like, oh, there's no I then. Oh, who needs this? Who needs that? It's like a great feeling. That's why I was a nurse. You know, you always can go serve something. But it's like such a great thing to find your gut and just be. And you're not going to find that in a dichotomous sense of, you know, church.
Yeah. So just to close this out, maybe on a lighter note, I don't know if you remember, but 7 or 8 years ago, you and I were sitting retreat down at Bohyeonsa in South Florida, and Caribou Dro was the kitchen master. And I remember this retreat. It's one of my fondest retreat memories where in the middle of our formal meal, you and loudly proclaimed to the entire group, "This is the worst chili I've ever had." To which Carol, without missing a beat, responded, "That's bullshit." Bobby, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. This has been Pointing at the Moon, our conversations here in the Peace Pagoda. If you'd like to support us, you can donate online at providencezen.org. But more importantly, if you want to connect with this practice, you can look us up online for our practice schedule or through the Kwon School of Zen to find a Zen center that's near you to practice or to participate in the online Sangha if one is not immediately accessible to you. So thank you all very much again.